All right, all right, all right. Wasn't the smoothest transition I've ever done, but hey, it's a one-man podcast. What can I say, right? Um, Welcome everyone to episode 94 of FC Chat. 94 is quite a number actually. I can't wait to get to 100 actually. We might have to
Do
do
we get?
a
Is there a prize
special
for 100? You're going to give away a skin or something?
A skin, yeah.
That'd be cool.
We might give away a corpse collection because I just noticed the other day I have a bunch of very very good corpses laying around. People
Do you
might
drop
like
sanguine?
more than any skin.
Do you drop sanguine harvesters during your fights, Panda?
I did not.
Really? Oh,
He doesn't have enough corpses. No corpses.
Jesus.
That
Yeah,
shines
like-
thing.
You listen. You're not serious about the game until you have a dedicated corpse collection and an ordering system for them. You need to be able to sort through them and pick out one that's good. A rare vintage.
You have like station containers with like alphabetical
Yes,
listings.
You're
There you
absolutely
go.
right, we do.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you know what? Looking at the collection, or it's not a collection. It's just like they just happen to be in my hangar because people gave them to me every now and then, right? It's like a, I don't know, as a token. I don't know what. I kind of regret not collecting. Right, it would be kind of fun, like especially the older types, people that are not necessarily around, like a Sister Bliss Corps, for example. Oh,
The best one would be you need a Gig X one if you want to collect.
Gig X Corpse would be very good.
Yeah. That's exactly the name I said right away too. I do have a Zavox Corpse. I mean that's a rare one, but yeah.
That's a throwback. I completely forgot about Zarbox.
Yeah, there's a couple names when you look back. Where you're like, oh yeah. Some people just like over time, they just.
So Merc has a Dagon, and he's got a ton of old school corpses in it that are pretty cool.
Just leaking out the side.
It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have an Exuki's corpse, so I have a CSM member corp.
Nice. There you go.
Yeah.
I like.
I'm surprised you don't have one of mine. They're pretty common. I die a lot.
Yeah, but every time I go to delve, somebody comes out and smacks me on the ass. So,
we do that. We have a tendency to do that.
Yeah, a little bit, just a bit.
I like how I didn't even a mechanical. It's probably pretty rare, yeah.
There are a couple. I think Mark has one. There are a couple out there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure I've got one stored away. For a rainy day, just in case. Break that bad boy out.
Fountain Frank corpse, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure you made the character, right?
There is the Fountain Frank character. He is sitting in Thera right now because I like Thera a lot, and it's very pretty in Thera, so I like to use it for background and stuff. It was in my campaign commercial quite a bit. So yeah, but Frank's around. He doesn't die that much though. I don't know if there are many Fountain Frank corpses around, but there are lots of Brisc corpses.
Yeah,
Honey Monster. That's probably a pretty common corpse. He's lost a lot of times.
Heyo.
But yeah, guys. I couldn't even get to my intro, right? Those guys, as you can tell, very talkative, right? Very talkative. So it's gonna be hard to stop. Let me get you guys a tiny bit of an intro at least, because especially Hai. I mean, most people are aware of all three of you, but Hai didn't have the chance to really campaign a lot. So he has not been on any other podcast so far, and. We're getting close to the campaign end, obviously, right? Tuesday at downtime is going to be voting period. And so last week I already made a podcast with a couple independent candidates that I think have a solid shot. And then obviously this week we're doing another episode about CSM because all three or all four of us are running. And I think we all have a solid shot. I think Mark has the hardest job to do in terms of wormholers, right? It's like, man, your people are just not voting enough, I think. But
you ever tried to herd cats? It's kind of like that.
I mean, I call myself a professional cat herder, so yeah.
Mark, how many wormhole candidates are there this time? There's only like 2 or 3 that I can really think of, right?
You want me to? The better question is how many wormhole specific candidates are there? Because last year we had a couple. This year there's only one, and it's me. But we have a couple others that are wormhole adjacent. Ithaca is wormhole adjacent. Alaska is wormhole adjacent. My boy Vincent wormhole adjacent, or he is a wormholer, and he's in my corp. So But for candidates who are specific to wormhole ecosystem, there's really only one, and it's me. So
there you go.
Giving it the old college try. Yeah.
So
it's wild that we were able to figure that out. I don't know if that's happened in a while.
Yeah, I actually wrote that down.
Wormholers, vote for Mark, so I don't have to be the Wormhole CSM anymore. Please, God.
I actually wrote that down in a bit of an intro for you. A passionate Warmer who might actually have a chance to get elected if the Warmer community gets their shit together. Which, it's a big if. It's a big if.
We were close last year. We were pretty close, and I've been very fortunate to make some good connections with some folks in some of the blocks this year who feel sympathetic towards our particular brand, including current companies. So we feel pretty good about it. Anything can happen. Yeah, shit's weird. It's a tricky system, but I'm hoping people show up and make something happen.
And you got close last time. Like
very close.
You weren't far off. So
I was 12th.
He was 12th. Arcia was 11th. He was 12th.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that between him and the folks that voted for Teddy last time, if they all show up this time, he's got enough to get on.
I feel pretty good about it. But who knows?
The thing is, if you had more like bigger names in Warmer space, I don't know. Wait, Alaska is an HK guy, isn't it?
He is not. Alaska's Warren Wormhole. Esports Petopia is who he spends his time with.
So, but I guess you would profit if there was another big name running, because if the other guy doesn't get elected, you would get a lot of votes trickling down.
Yeah, I mean that's we have generally tried to align ourselves too with a lot of the more generalized. I mean, Stitch is a big, fairly big name. People know Stitch Canelan because of his the work he does with ship balance and with kind of game design as a whole. And he's in Tuskers. He has lived in wormholes. I've worked a lot with Phantomite and worked a lot with Ithaca over the last couple of weeks to kind of work and get name recognition out there for people who would be considering those candidates too. Because at the end of the day, we're all we have generally the same ideas about a lot of different things. There are significant issues that aren't specific to wormholes that we feel like we can address. I am pretty wormhole centric. I'm not going to pretend like I'm not pretend otherwise. But we have a host of different issues that we feel are at least things we'd like to complain about to the devs directly, and bring some attention to some things they maybe not have thought about. But getting there is the first step. So here we are.
Yeah. By the way,
as the Wormhole CSM for the last 2 years has been to tell them to leave you guys alone. I hope I've done an okay job of that.
Not too bad for the most. And here, seriously, there are a lot of people who feel strongly that if there should not be a Wormhole CSM specifically because we don't want CCP to fuck around with wormholes, right? I don't like that. I feel like that's defeatist and not really what we should be aiming for here. I mean, because
if the trend was going upwards, I'd agree. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's the equivalent of not calling the fire department because you're worried they might make the house burn down faster. The only people here with a hose are the developers. And if we want to address the fire, that is the place you would want to start. You come better or worse. I feel like I said, anything can happen. It's a weird process. You don't know that. You don't know how it's going to play out until it actually plays out. So at the end of the day, maybe I'm just here for the ride. I'm just here to enjoy it while it lasts.
All right. I had intros for all of you written down, but I guess I will just fucking skip it. I think you guys are all well known. Maybe Brisc being the best known CSM candidate, right? That's basically
ever, right?
It's basically your focus ever since you ran 4 years ago?
Pretty much.
CSM 13, right? I remember. Do you remember clean shaven young Brisc?
I remember.
Do you guys remember? Yeah. Do you sometimes
remember?
Have you ever rewatched that video from back then?
I go back and I look at it and I think of myself, oh my God, how young. I mean, it was funny. The first thing High was like, dude, be on the CSM. He's really aged you. And I was like, yeah. And I look back at that video. My hair wasn't gray. I didn't have a fucking beard. You know, I wasn't squinty all the time. I was like, I looked like a little kid. And that was only 4 years ago. 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
So what did young Brisc?
A long 4 years.
What did young Brisc not know that old Brisc and wise Brisc would not tell him?
I would say, "What the fuck are you doing? Get the hell out of here! Don't do this. This is the most stressful thing you will do in a while." Look. No matter how famous you are, elections are not fun. They are stress. Like Pando and I literally were just meeting with Darkshines and stuff, and both of us are like freaking out. And I think we're both in pretty good position. But it's like, if you're not running unopposed, you're running scared. And I think everybody that's out there is kind of like, if you're not stressed out, I don't feel like, you know, either you are like completely non-stressable, which is fine. I think that's a great thing to have, or else you're just not taking it seriously. Because I think this is like an emotional roller coaster every single time. It sucks, and it does take a lot out of me. So, but I'm glad it's almost over. Another week, and then we're done, and we can get back to whatever it is we are doing.
Yeah, how has campaigning been, like, in general? Or I should maybe ask. Let's get a question to High. Like, what the fuck have you been doing? Like, why haven't you been campaigning on all the podcasts and stuff? Just no time? Or didn't you see the value in it?
I mean, it's a difficult thing to say. I don't see the value in it. I guess time is one factor, but I feel like I made enough of my presence known with my Citadel post, for example, and I feel I'm well known enough, and I've talked to certain leaders in other capacities who've kind of approached me and put me on their ballots. I feel like in regards to getting my voice out there, I was only ever going to do probably, you know, your podcast or one other podcast. I only ever saw the value in doing one or two. I don't think I need to kind of, I mean, it sounds kind of, you know, boastful, but yeah, I just kind of felt that the way CSM is run is kind of getting yourselves on ballots effectively these days, top and bottom of it.
Yeah, so you made some, I don't want to say made some deals, it always sounds shady, but you talked to some friends that people might be surprised by, right? So you got yourself on some ballots that, you know, people might not know, you know, or wouldn't instantly expect. So I guess you get like your own guys, obviously, super loyal to you, and you'll get a bunch of votes from Snuff, of course. And then with like other bigger ballots, you're gonna be on our ballot too, of course. Right? I mean, we've been flying together for ages.
Of course you would.
Yeah, I'm friends with everyone. That's what I wanted to say, you know.
There you go.
And I think from like all the other big groups that put you down somewhere there, you might just be in a really good spot. And I think because you didn't do a whole lot of podcasts and stuff, you were flying a little bit under the radar.
Yeah, I mean, the other issue is, well, not issue, but I've kind of taken the reins back of Snuff. If you haven't looked at our codeboard recently, we've been flying Typhoons and Astartes. That's how you can tell that I'm doing stuff again.
Boost on Astartes the other day.
Yeah, that's my influence on the Alliance. So just kind of getting back into that gameplay again is just been trying to do that as well. But yeah, I think I'm in a good position, and yeah, I'm always happy to talk to people if they, you know, approach me about things, and I feel like my platform is pretty well known for my Citadel post. I got a lot of publicity, and that's kind of what I'm gonna steer towards. Kind of same idea, approach people, get, you know, a large variety of views on bigger issues to CCP and see how that goes.
Yeah. And I can see, Brisc, you are getting ready to just hop off for a minute, right?
Yeah, I got to go talk to some Germans, Pando. You already have the German vote.
If I'm not German enough for you, what can I say?
Sewed up, but I got to go pander to them, so I got to go over there real quick. But I'll be back in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was a little bit unfortunate with the scheduling and shit, but we're figuring it out.
Timing is always a pain. But I'm around. I'll be back in a little bit, guys. Right. So I'll see you in a minute.
I'll just turn on the camera in a sec. Right. Right, so for people, oh shit, why did he turn off his camera? Didn't he say he wouldn't leave? God damn it. Wait a second.
Oh.
I wanna try something here. No, he's back.
He's back. Yeah, he's back.
Okay.
Can't hear you.
No, he's talking to other people now. Okay.
No, I was yelling at you guys. I muted myself by accident. All right, I turned my camera back on. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll leave you alone now.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's the struggle of podcasts. I'm telling you guys, cropping all the cams and shit, and then if something messes up, it's like it gets a mess. But yeah, guys, one thing, when Brisc is back, we're gonna do what you can already see in the middle of the screen, actually predictions. All right, so get hyped for the prediction part of this, because I think I can predict at least 7 of the 10 slots, but I don't know.
That's not how it goes though, because there's a lot of blocks. So
yeah.
The block vote will carry a lot.
We did see this year though, Erstschlag and some guys were doing a little bit of an initiative to what's it called? Project Ibis, they call it, to support independent candidates. And I think, Mark, you're probably on there, right?
Yeah, they got me on this year, which is cool.
I don't know what the exact
I think they're voting right now, aren't they? Go back and look.
I don't know how exactly it works, but yeah, they're trying to push some independent candidates. I'm always a fan of that, right? Like a playstyle diverse CSM is probably the best CSM. So we'll see how that works out, if that makes anything different this year. But yeah. Hi, you were talking about Astartes. Like, why Astartes, actually? You wanna explain that to me? Because I was confused when I saw them.
So, well, the meta is very kind of kitey these days, and I just wanted to do something that has a decent amount of VHP, is cheap and can project, but also is more brawly, if that makes sense. It's more of just kind of a fuck around doctrine, effectively. It's not too cheap, but it's cheap enough, and I feel like you learn more when you fly in armor comps and shield comps. You have to use E War. There's a bit more than just F1, and I like people to engage a bit more with the game rather than just doing, F1, anchor up, burn away,
Yeah, you know
That's
what?
basically it.
I'm always a fan of like a little bit more challenging doctrines, especially like remote rep stuff and so on. Like where people just like they feel like they're actually doing stuff, right? And I think people appreciate it too, right? It doesn't always end up in the best doctrine out there, but you don't have to be the best doctrine.
Yeah, I miss remote rep stuff. It's kind of hard to do something like that these days, just because everybody does kite, and also I feel like if you take 10 people, you normally have to fight 1 billion, rather than in the old days when you try and go in an RR comp, you could probably find a well-matched fight. So, yeah. It's not there.
I think that's going to be on the list for everyone who's running for CSM. It's like just the overall activity in the game, right? It's just so different. And especially when the faction warfare, I'm not sure if you have a big take on the faction warfare stuff. We might just talk about that in a minute. But people like to talk about like the old days of faction warfare, and I'm like, man, it was such a different game back then, right? I started in faction warfare, but I still can't say to people like I've got faction warfare experience. Like I've played faction warfare for like 1 or 2 years, but it's not the same anymore. It just isn't.
It's the same for me. It's completely different. Like faction warfare just used to be effectively fights all the time. It's fucking great. It's very different these days. You'd have very big cruiser fights as well and stuff like that. It was a really, really fun time in the old days.
I think it's important too, just to, when we're talking about, making sure or working on player count and getting player count back up, CCP seems pretty dead set on doing everything they can to draw in new players, and I'm not going to sit here and discredit the NPE, because I think it's important. I think it's important to bring new players into the game, but what I don't think they seem to realize is that and I've said this before on some other shows, there is a huge number of people who have played the game and enjoyed the game and would like to enjoy the game again, and who have either unsubbed or just,
I would go a step further. They would like to tell people how much they like the game too.
Yes, they would like to tell people how much the game has improved, because they want their friends to come back and play the game with them. And right now they can't do that. They've either been disenfranchised or disillusioned or any number of other things. So
you'll also see them kind of come back. I mean, at least in Snuff, you'll see them come back, try it for like a month and realize it's not what it was, and then just go AFK again.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
that's what's frustrating too, right? Because like you talk about some other things they've done to try and monetize the game and bring in more money. Like I get that CCP's a business, like they're trying to make a bottom line. That's fine. Like these are accounts that are currently not making you any money. They're not buying Plex. They're not subbing their accounts. They're not I don't know, buying merch in your merch store that barely exists. So like if they can do the bare minimum to bring people back into the game and make the game compelling to that demographic of players, they're going to be making money hand over fist. It's money they don't have currently. It's buck wild.
Yeah, I mean, the answer to that is never like super easy, right? There's like so many factors and stuff. And I guess one of the main reasons also why I think all of us are running is like from the outside, you can't really know for sure, you know? You can't really know for sure what the answer is. Like unless CCP actually tells you everything, which they don't, right?
No.
So on the CSM, you'll get more. We'll still not get all the information, I guess, but we'll get more information to make like better, like not decisions is the wrong way to say it, but like to have a better opinion to then give them to CC. Because like I think a lot of people, like for example Stitch, you mentioned Stitch earlier, they already have influence on CCP by making posts and stuff like this. And when it comes to balancing and stuff, that's very easy. The information is there. You can make you can make like clear decisions, lay it out with logic, and that's one of the reasons I've been told to, like I've heard it more than once, that they think like Stitch is a really good guy, but he might even not be good on the CSM. He might just be better outside the CSM, which is it's a fascinating issue, right? Now there's a guy everyone likes, but
it does make you wonder. It does make you wonder why, if they have all this information available to them, why do they so frequently miss the mark on things? Like, I mean, I don't want to speak out of line here because it's not something that I have as much experience with directly, because my group's smaller and I don't deal with block level kind of um, financial issues. But scarcity has been rough for you guys. That was a decision that they made pretty, with a lot of confidence, I think, went into that one. If they have the information available, how can they be so off on those kind of predictions?
I think it's just they lack the tool to actually interpret the information correctly, which is player experience. I think they don't have enough of that in the decision-making process, right? So especially the higher ups in CCP, I don't think they have any playtime. Like honestly, I think they play the game, they play the MPE, they think it looks nice, and maybe they're logging in their chart to just test some stuff. But the actual game, the kind of shit we're talking about, the kind of shit that gets people excited to play, right? The big stories, snuff dropping 50, 100 dreads in someone's staging, getting bubbled by Fraternity, or like the Warmal eviction that's fucking insane, people just reshipping and all that stuff. They've never been involved in this kind of stuff. Never. Yeah. They have never seen it. They don't have no idea how much work leads up to this, how much leadership leads up to the position for people to then put in the work, to then make stuff happen. And then the story is there, right? And I think this is all missing. I think that they log in and call it playing the game, and that's it. While some devs have really a shit ton of player experience, especially now with Aurora and Sutonia there. So it's getting better, I think. But do they make the bigger decisions of where this is going? We'll see, right? I think Aurora's like actually, she seems to be making really good progress there.
And I mean, so there are certainly Sutonia, Swift both have great experience, are great people that have generally vouched for the community, in one way or another. It does make you wonder whether or not this is something that we can walk back from, or if the executive level at CCP has become too executive and too disconnected from the the player base. There's because there are different goals, right? Like you want your devs to be interested in creating a compelling product that's going to bring more people into the game, can generate creative, interesting content, make the game more fun for more people, right? Like that's what we're all kind of out here for. At the same time, at the executive level, they have different goals and they have different, motivations. And I'm not saying that they are, malevolent. I don't think anybody is out here trying to tank the game, but frequently we've seen that, in the pursuit of some of these goals, certain things get neglected. And I think this is just one of those cases where, they say, oh, well, what if we do this? And then, we introduce scarcity and people now have a harder time refilling their cap supplies. So then they have to buy Plex to buy the resources to get those caps back into space, or they have to spend, bring in more tunes to gather more resources so they can, and this will generate money for us. Well, instead of realizing that if people don't have the money, you can't restock their caps, they just won't fly them. It's not, when cap prices hit, 10, 12 billion for, basic dreads, like people just aren't going to fly them. So you do wonder if that disconnect is something you can walk back from, or whether it's, terminal, right?
Yeah, and I think so. I think that's gonna be my first focus if I get elected. Is gonna be to kind of make them understand the whole work and all that stuff that goes into this, the actual player perspective. But I'm not sure if it's as easy as I think.
Brisc would probably be somebody better to ask this question, but surely I can't imagine the previous CSMs not trying to do that. Surely, at the end of the day, it must be very frustrating for them. So I can't see them not trying to do that.
So what I think is, for example, you have a Gobbins or a Villy or a Progod. They have all put in so much work into this game, and they know how much work. Did they actually sit down and make a presentation of hey, laying it out? Because I think they went in thinking, surely they know. But I don't think they do know. How much work, how much stuff is going on behind the scenes that they don't see, right? So as far as I can tell, the only guy who ever, not the only guy who ever made a presentation, but that I'm aware of, and I was maybe 2 or 3 other guys. I think Torvald did one. But Exuki went through all the wormhole stuff. So this is how we live in wormhole space. Lays it out. This is how we care bear. This is why it's pretty safe. This is why people think it's not safe. This is the ISK we make per hour, and so on, right? The basic stuff. Just lay it all out, very easy, and it's fine. I'm not even saying that all devs at CCP should know all the playstyles. That's ridiculous. Nobody has time to do that, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right, and Teddy just mentioned it in the chat too. Noobman and Exuki both did presentations like that, both for the devs and for the wormhole community when they were both on CSM. And you're right. I mean, you should not expect the devs, because they have a different job than we do, right? As content creators, we're using the tools that they've created to create content, whereas what their whole scope is so much different than the scope of anybody in the game, from players to player management to industrial people to people who run or market market experts, right? So I do agree that you need to have that kind of, but at the same time, you feel like there needs to be a base level of understanding where we can come in and say okay, here are some issues. You need to understand at the very basic level why these things have become issues over time. I shouldn't have to, you don't need to lay a foundation with each new CSM. It's not like they have had, each new CSM is the first CSM. You have to walk in and be like, all right, so here's how things are going. This is, I know this is the first time you've heard about this, so let me explain to you what a wormhole is. I don't feel like that's accurate either. I think they have plenty of ideas out there now. They just need to be more. I think as CSM, they just need to be more upfront about why things have gotten this bad, right?
I think touching on that, I think this CSM will be one of the more important ones in that regard, because I think they're starting to understand that content is fucking dry in the game right now, and the Citadel patch, it took them years and years to actually start trying to do little bits of Citadels, and they still haven't done enough for it to be something amazing. But I feel like they're actually starting to understand how big the issues are, which will mean the CSM will be very important.
Well, even if they don't understand that the issue is content, they have to understand there's an issue because they're losing money. I mean, the player count's dried up, and you're lucky to see 12,000 people in the U.S. time zone during the week, which is pathetic. And there's just nothing to do. Unless they can bring those numbers back up, you're in a position where you start to spiral, right? Because as there are fewer people in the game, there are fewer things to do, which is going to drive people out of the game. And, then there will be fewer things to do. So they need to find a way to, rebound and listen to the community and listen to, hopefully, the CSM who will give them these suggestions to say, listen, there are common sense things we can do here to improve the state of the game. There are things you can do that have previously, ruined entire play styles. If we can start to walk some of those back or start to find creative ways around them, then yeah, maybe we can pull out of this thing. And I don't think we're at the point yet where, the nosedive can't be corrected, but we are in a nosedive.
Yep, I think I agree.
So.
All right.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, Eve only made, I think, a 3% decrease in revenue in Q4 2021, but I feel like those figures will start to hemorrhage quite hard in 2022. So we'll see if they start to care.
Yeah, I mean, they did the whole like multi-character training thing now, and the multi-account thing. It just seems a little bit like, yeah, we kind of fucked up. Like, how about this one? Like, without walking it back, it's just like, ugh.
Imagine for a second you have a host of people who are convinced that the game is not worth the money they're paying for it anymore, and they don't want to feel like they are paying the same amount of money for less, right? And then you tell that same group of people like, okay, well, we've figured it out. Don't worry. We've got content coming in sometime. But until then, in order to fund that content, we're going to make the thing that you were worried about being not worth the money that you were already paying for it now worth more money. So you have to pay us more. Imagine if in that same situation they'd gone, okay, listen, why don't we, if the sub price is $15 US, why don't we do a multi-account thing then? Say that your first account's $15, every subsequent account is $10 or $8. And then you've got a point where people are sitting here going, well, you know what? The game wasn't worth it to me at $15, but for $8 a month, I'd be willing to come back and put some money in that bad boy. You know what I mean?
The worst part is if they had done that and actually had some good, huge things in their keynotes, then it wouldn't have been an issue. But it was just
and not only can you imagine how many people were waiting all year, waiting for months for the keynote to be able to be like, okay, they got the screen pulled up, they got their account management there. They're like, all right, babe, we're gonna resub tonight. Let's see what we got. Let's move and shake. We got this thing going. Come on. And then they came out with a bunch of limp dick, nothing. And they're sitting here going, oh, okay, well, I guess I won't log back in yet. And again, because now my account is more expensive and I'm getting less out of it. Like that, there's just not an arithmetic where that works. So, and I feel like that's something that they need to, that's a basic business thing. Like you have an audience that is not a captive audience. There are other MMOs. I don't think there are other MMOs like Eve or other games like Eve, which is probably why so many of us are stuck here. But, there are other games people can go play if they find more value in those games than this game. The problem is, the CCP has done things and they have great assets at hand. They have a player base that is some of the most dedicated players of any game anywhere ever who has consistently gone to bat for the developers by virtue of creating the content that gives the devs more marketing material to sell their game. And no other game does it like that. And nobody else has generated the same kind of press that the Eve player base does for the developers of their game. And at the same time, you also have one of the best art teams in gaming right now. You have a rich history within your game. You have all these different assets, and then you're sitting here and you're like, well, we haven't really done anything new recently, so why don't we increase the sub price? That'll fix it. It's just dumb. It doesn't make business sense. It doesn't make game development sense. Like, I'm not a game developer. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know the inner workings of how that process works. But just from a common sense point of view, I don't understand why You look at the situation we're in right now, and your option is, oh, we need to make it worse. That's fine.
I think it's very simple. Like from my point of view, it was just like always, whenever we talked about any issue, right? Be it Citadels, which I like to rant about, or be it whatever, the soft system, whatever it is.
Right.
I always go back to saying, like, if we had a ton of people in this game, just like, let's say 5 times as many people in space doing shit, those issues, we wouldn't have the time to talk about them because we would be so busy shooting each other. And so the number one issue is players in the game, right? Like, we need more players, right? And then outpricing people is just so opposite of what they called sustainable, right? Because that's what they said. It has to be sustainable. To even put that word in a price increase dev block, it's just so far from reality that I was like, man, I don't know. It's just as if someone wants to sabotage the game, right?
It's strange that they did it and kind of blamed, inflation is pretty fucking high right now because of, the world climate, but it's strange that they felt necessary to do that for something like an MMO, which is very old-fashioned almost these days. You have quite an aging player base, and realistically, I'm pretty sure they can make enough revenue to support the game easily just from probably selling skins at this point. Like, I can't imagine the expenditure of EVE would require them to kind of hike prices so much when they're not doing as well as they should be, and they're kind of seeing decreases in their revenue anyways. It's quite a weird move. So.
Well, and there are so many other ways they could be making money right now. Like, I feel like I've harped about this on every show that I've been on, but the fact that we don't have a halfway decent merch store is buck goddamn wild. Like, I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself, but my alliance, a 250 tune alliance, has a merch store. This shirt is merch that I bought from my own store. It didn't cost me anything to do. I made the design. It cost me nothing to set it up. And I bought this. It generated money for the alliance. Well, technically for the website hosting, but still, like, there are so many print-on-demand shops right now. They don't have to hold stock. They don't have to buy 1,000 shirts and then sell off those shirts and have to hold on to the inventory. You can set it up so that you generate a design. The company prints it when the orders come in, and then you get a cut of the profits. And it's not as much as if you were holding on to, but it's basically free money. And the idea they have not put ships on shirts. This is a very simple thing to just you have the, I mean, man, that I could go on about this all day, but it's indicative of an issue, both with in-game aesthetic stuff that people want to spend money on, and people traditionally have been willing and eager to spend money on, and they just have not used the tools that they've created for themselves to utilize that market. They have either shied away from it or tried to explain it away by saying, oh, it's a grungy space game. Like, we don't need to be having cat ears in people's ships. Like, you're in a death spiral. Figure something. Give people if cat ears are going to pulls this thing out, then fucking do it.
Cat ears save EVE.
I mean, it doesn't need to be anything. I mean, it doesn't need to be anything wild. Just do something. I don't know.
Well, when it comes to the cat ear thing, like I keep saying, like, just give us the option to turn them off, Yeah. And everyone who wants cat ears can have cat ears, and everyone who doesn't, they don't. Right?
Yeah, that can't be hard. I refuse to believe in a game as complicated with so many different systems as EVE is, that having a toggle for show cat ears or don't show cat ears will require that much dev time. And then you can let the art team do whatever the fuck they want with ear-based paraphernalia. I mean, these are all things, and we sit here and we joke about it, but like, I seriously wonder why, or maybe these conversations are happening in CCP boardrooms when the management team talks about, like, how are we going to generate income in this game? How are we going to generate, make our revenue numbers come up because Pearl Abyss is, grabbing us by the balls or something? Like, you have to imagine they're having these conversations. Why do they not have the same outcomes? What explanation could they possibly have for avoiding free money? I don't understand it.
Well, I don't know. And that's the thing. We can't really know either. I mean, like I said earlier, right? We don't have the numbers and stuff like this. So, being on the CSM would kind of get us that all, right?
But they give us financial information though?
I would guess so.
It's quite.
I mean, we can ask Brisc in a minute.
Even if they weren't giving us the numbers directly, you could still you could at least ask the question, like, why aren't you selling merch? Like, why don't you have more in-game apparel? So people want in-game apparel. They spend money on it all the time. Why do we not have more ship skins for ships that, for more ships? People like to fly certain things. I mean, the fact that the Legion has 3 skins and like 2 of them are dog ass is wild. There's so many people flying Legions, especially in wormholes, for years. Can you imagine how much money people would have spent on skins for the Legion over the last 2 years while out in my part of space? The meta was ham Legions in armor brawls. So many people would have spent so much money on skins for that ship, and they fully missed the opportunity because now they're just not as popular anymore. And they're still popular, just not as popular as they have been. It's just wild. And that's wild. That's just it's a lost opportunity. And that's the thing, is that they know when changes are going to happen. They know when meta shifts are going to happen because they control when the patches come out. They control what the patches are going to be. So if you think, oh, we're going to buff this thing, it's going to make this ship more popular. Let's introduce some skins that people want to buy while they move into the ship they haven't flown before.
I mean, they kind of have been doing this a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out. If we get elected, we'll find out the true reasons, I guess.
You're not wrong.
But who knows? Who knows what actually is going on in there? We'll have to see.
Watching Brisc silently mouth the words to his interview is so fascinating.
Should have turned him on here.
You should, yeah. There's no way he can hear us.
No, it's all right. But yeah, he'll be back in a minute, and then we can do the prediction part. Maybe we should already start. I don't know. Maybe we should start, and maybe Brisc has something to add in the end, right? So should we start?
He can add himself. We'll leave Brisc, and then he can add himself to the prediction.
Yeah, I mean, he has a sort of chance, I'd say, right? So
what do you think?
Let's start with you, Mark. What is the number one? What is a prediction you think is definitely going to be on the CSM? Who's going to be there?
Okay, the way I see it, there are probably 7 that are for sure. And if I'd have to pick the one who I think is going to be the top candidate this year, is probably going to be Kaz from Goon Swarm.
I think that's a safe bet. Yeah,
I think Kaz is on the top of the Goon ballot. Goon ballot's the biggest in the game. It's probably a safe bet that Kaz is going to be on top of that list.
All right, Hi, you're next.
Well, Angry Mustache. I reckon both Goons will get on.
Yeah. Easy bets. All right, then it's my turn. I would say Storm Delay from Horde. He's gonna make it on. Right, safe bet.
Really safe bet.
Then Mark. All right, we're getting closer there. I think at the 7 mark, it's gonna get tricky. All right.
It is gonna get tricky. I'm gonna say number 4 candidate. I'm gonna say Brisc Rubal. I think Brisc Rubal probably a safe bet. No specific reason why, but probably a safe bet.
Yeah, I mean, he's high up on the Imperium ballot, number 1 on Init ballot, and he will get obviously votes from
name recognition too.
You guys are forgetting the other big block, Luke and Inan from Fraternity.
There you go. That was your turn anyway. Then it's my turn. I'm gonna say Kenneth Feld. He's gonna be number 1 on NC ballot. He's gonna be, I think, number 1 on PL and number 2 or 3 on Horde. So safe bet, Kenneth Feld.
I think he was number 2 on Horde, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
And High is number 3, right?
High was number 3. Yeah. I'm on the ballot too. Fun fact. So
I'm not, I think. God damn it,
Can't imagine why.
Do you reckon we've hit every block yet?
I'm going to throw one more for number 7. I think Pando is going to get on. I'm not just sitting here, I'm not trying to suck your dick or anything, but I
agree.
I think that's a fairly safe bet. I think there's a lot of
I'm not sure. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of generalized support between groups. I think for your candidacy, I think there's a general feeling, especially among people who are not block affiliated, that Pando is one of the good guys. People talk about you with the same kind of reference they talk about Jinx, for example, for different reasons, but people think that what you're doing is not as horrifying to the general public as some of the larger block candidates might be. So
that's the nicest thing I've ever heard.
That is what I'm going to say my number 7 would be.
All right, then it's High's turn. All right.
This is where it gets a bit more grey, I guess. I mean,
you could name yourself, because I think I'm gonna. If you're not putting yourself there, I'll put you next.
Nah. I think it's a tough one.
It's very tough.
I'll give you that, yeah.
No, it's getting tricky, yeah.
I'll go with Ithaca Hawk. I feel like he's a well-known enough person in the Great Eve community. He always, does tournaments and that type of thing. I feel like he has a chance of being number 8.
Right.
I think Ithaca's a safe bet.
Ithaca, I mean, I'm not sure about a safe bet, but
well, of the remaining candidates, I feel like he has enough varied support to be of who is remaining probably a safe bet. I think.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, go ahead. You're good.
No, someone just asked what block ballot is Mark. Mark's also going to be on the inner ballot.
The shitter block.
It's about to get revealed, I think, in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It's going to be in its meet, like State of the Alliance.
I got you guys. I got Horde.
You on Brave?
Brave, yeah, Brave from earlier.
That's
today.
not a bad list. That's not a bad list.
And Brave was good for me last year too. I got a lot of support from those guys, which is nice. I talked to Norris last night about working in
he didn't like it.
He didn't say anything. I mean, he asked for some information and said, "I'll look into it and get back to you." So
that's not a good sign. Did he not send you to Luke? Because that's what he did to me when I poked him. I was like, "Hey, so you're putting high number 2 or what? What's going on?" Like, I just poke him for info. And he's like, "Hey, if you want to talk CSM stuff, you gotta talk to Luke."
With a lot of these, you got to cast a wide net when you need those ballots. Not having that same recognition as somebody like the esteemed Mr. Rubal. You have to find what you can where you can get it. So I feel pretty good about it, but who knows?
All right, we are 9 candidates. So who's number 10? Mark, are you going to be number 10? What do you think?
It is not my turn. It is your turn. Actually, it is my turn. Fuck.
Yeah, exactly. I put high on. If I had to take one, I think you have a good shot. There are some candidates though, right, that are still left. Let me list the possibilities here, all right?
Right.
So we have Jinx from Brave. I think actually Jinx has a solid shot, even above Ithaca maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Stitch, right? He's getting there. Every time he's getting closer. I feel like maybe this is the time. Then you have Phantomite. He has been on before.
That's true.
Then you have Torvald. Has been on before.
Great candidate.
Marcia has been on before. Steve Ranukin has been on before. So it's like they all have made it before. So it's a big list actually.
It is tough, and this is kind of the spot that when we were going into it, the kind of spot that I thought I'd be playing for. I'm not going to say my own name. I would like to be number 10 on people's list, or number 1 on people's list, to be clear. But sneaking in at the end would be great, and I would like that. However, I'm not going to sit here and jerk myself off. I think of the candidates remaining, man, it is hard. I mean, seriously, I like Phantomite. I like Stitch a lot. I really like I like Torvald's position. Man, it's hard. This is a tough spot. I'm gonna say me. Fuck that. I'm gonna say me. Fuck it. Listen, you only live once, and who knows if Eve's gonna be around in a year. I'm gonna say old Marky Mark for number 10.
So
it turns out I am jerking myself off under the table. So
that's totally fine. I mean, that's kind of part of the campaigning job. I noticed, right? Everyone's like, some people talk about themselves in third person and shit. I was like, my god, dudes, do you hear this?
Yeah,
there's some ridiculous stuff going on, but
it's here's
you
the
gotta
thing.
do it.
Like when you do this kind of thing, you have to have a certain, you have to be able to, like, you can't take it too seriously, right?
No.
Like, you have to be able to kind of appreciate what you're doing while you're doing it. And you have to appreciate the kind of lunacy of the whole thing. I mean, you're effectively running for a space council of a spaceship video game. Like, yeah, it's a little silly, but at the same time, like, there are worse things you could spend your time doing, and people find a lot of value in Eve and get a lot of enjoyment out of it. We wouldn't be here if we weren't. So, like, yeah, if people are compelled to do the things that they need to do to make the game better, then that's something that we should be rewarding. I think a lot of these. I'm looking down this list, and I cannot think of too many people who. I mean, I think everybody on here is pretty solid, right? Like, there's not, I don't know. I would, yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna say this, right? Jinx is missing on that list, and I think Jinx might just replace one of us on that list. It might be Ithaca, it might be High, it might be me or you, right? So I feel like Jinx has a solid chance because of Brave. I never talked to the guy, so I don't know him really.
I think if Jinx is going to replace somebody, he's going to replace somebody who
Arceus missing
votes, because, like, I don't think, I don't know.
We'll get a lot of primary votes because Brave is still pretty beefy.
You got to think about Brave's really beefy now. Beefier than, like, a fucking.
You know what we have to talk about now too is, are there beefy and Omega accounts? Right? Think real active alliances that do shit, alliances that do shit with alts, have a way higher count of Omega accounts. For example, Snuff might not be beefy, but everyone in Snuff is at least dual boxing, right? So is it the case in Brave? I don't think so. I think Brave has probably a 0.8 accounts of per person on Omega, right? So it's like a lot of Alpha Toons in that too. While Snuff has like a 2.3 or so, right? And then Init might have like a 1.9, 2, whatever. Yeah. So I think that plays a role too when you think about it.
I don't know if this guy's gonna. I got votes last year from a guy who ran an Omega account, or ran an Omega farm rather, which was wild. And they just had a bunch of votes. There were a couple different people he reached out to, and I got some votes from him, I think. But I mean, that kind of thing matters when you're talking about how, especially at the end of the ballot, we were 200 votes away last year from just getting on up front, and those votes could have come from anywhere, and so when people sit here and talk about how small groups don't matter, small group numbers add up pretty quickly, especially when people are multi-boxing. You're not wrong. Like, having multiple Omegas is a huge deal for this whole process.
Yeah. Right. Let me mark the ones that are definitely fixed here. Okay, Casimir, sure. I'll put a star in front of it. Storm Delay, Brisc, pretty safe bet. Luke, pretty safe bet. Kenneth, pretty safe bet. Right.
I think Kenneth is a good bet.
And then we have us and Jinx. I think Jinx is honestly, right? Is he a safe bet?
I don't know. I don't think Jinx is a safe bet. I think Jinx is a good bet. I think Jinx would be a good CSM. But he's on like a similar level as you and High. Both have strong support from the people who are, from the people who mainline in their group, but their groups aren't mega blocks. It's not the same as Horde, or it's not the same as Goons, right? Like, it's a little bit different. So I don't know. It's hard to say.
All right. So this is kind of the prediction then. Let me actually hide the Discord.
We hadn't even talked about Steve. Steve has a lot of support too.
So yeah. Every time I'm surprised. Every time. Yeah. And then,
Steve's been around forever.
Arcia. So yeah, those last couple slots, those last 3-4 slots are gonna be very contested. Jinx would be fantastic with CCP's current NPE focus. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, like I said, I've never talked to him, so maybe I should have talked to him. But yeah, is he very new player oriented because he's in Brave? Yeah.
I guess what to segue into would be, what do we think of the block candidates in terms of? I mean, I have not spoken to the Goon one, so that's something that Panda would probably be best to say. But obviously we know Brisc. The fraternity guys pretty new. How do we think they're going to be in terms of portraying a pretty fair reflection of the game? Because one of the things people always worry about is they're just going to kind of focus on block-centered issues.
So I want to say, and I said it on a meta show too, like, for example, I think the Goon ballot or the Imperium ballot, whatever you want to call it, always had like a little bit more of a balance in terms of like they're not just sending the same dude twice,
Right.
Kazani and Angry Mustache, they're pretty different. They're pretty different to the typical CSM guys, right? So financing and stuff like this. And then obviously Brisc is pretty unique, I'd say, right? Very player feedback oriented. Then you have Storm Delay. I don't know exactly what he's doing, but I think he's mainly FCN. I'm not sure.
I don't know too much about Storm Delay. Gobbins seemed to think real highly of him. But...
Yeah, and then you have Kenneth Feld. I guess he's an industry guy, like very industry focused. I mean, Kazani and Kenneth Feld are kind of interchangeable, I guess, in terms of subjects.
I had a really nice conversation with Kenneth the other day. We were waiting for, he had just come out of his CCP interview, and is a nice guy, I mean, it is a lot easier to, I feel like, and that's why I think that this interview process is kind of important, right? Because you have to, not just be a name on a list. You have to humanize yourself with people too. So, I like Kenneth. I'd vote for him.
Kenneth was prior CSM, right?
Mm-hmm. He was.
Yeah. He's the industry guy. All right.
Fuck.
Let me show your cam. All right, Brisc. So what you missed? I'm not sure how much you missed. Actually, you were.
Well, I was watching everything as we were going through stuff because I wasn't talking the entire time, so I did get to see some of this stuff. I agree with the whole list. I think everybody on here is pretty good.
So
at least I think they shot at
it's tough at the end.
Yeah,
it is tough. Look, it is very tough at the end, and I think the hard part is there are a lot of folks on here at the end that have run before, but I don't know how much support they're going to get because they all tie into similar communities. Like that. I mean, look, when you look at this, you've got Arcia, Torvald, and Phantomite all running. They're all like faction warfare guys. They're all like that. That's like the low sec, small gang faction warfare kind of thing. That's what they focus on. And then Torvald does the Abyssals and the streaming thing, and so does Arcia. They're all previous CSM candidates too, so it's members too, so they've all run again. But I don't know what's going to happen. And if you look at the community, like last time, when Phantomite ran the first time, he got like 1,500 votes. The second time, he got like 500. So I don't know if they have enough votes in that area to be able to hold 3 people, let alone even or even 1, depending on what turnout is.
The first time he ran, you're pretty much aware, of course. The first time he ran, we actually voted for him as in it, right? Because you weren't running. So we pushed. Oh, wait, that was Exuki. We put him second after the Exuki one, I think, right? So he got a shit ton of vote from Init back then, and that's the only. I mean, I don't want to say the only reason. He did a good job, like campaigning and all that stuff, right? So people were willing to vote for him, but we put him on the ballot, and I think that pushed him that far up that first time, right? So yeah. And then what do you guess? Like, what's your guess on Jinx, Brisc? I guess you can maybe judge it best. You're muted, by the way.
With Jinx, I think it all comes down to how much Brave turns out. And I know that Jinx is on the Imperium ballot relatively low. I think he's going to be on ours, if I recall correctly, although I've already forgotten who we announced. I guess Shines is going to do it here in a little bit. But I think if Jinx gets enough first ballot votes from Brave and they've done enough horse trading, then he's got a shot. But it's all going to come down to turnout. And that's the biggest issue, okay, this time around. And I don't know if you guys talked about it, but I will lay it out for you. Turnout is the big issue. There are 45, 46 people running this time. So there will be 30, 37 rounds until we get to the final ballot where everybody's elected. To survive, it all depends on the amount of turnout. And we've had consistently increased turnout every single election since CSM 13, but we didn't have a price increase. There was a war in the middle. We were in the middle of a war last year, and we didn't have a bunch of stuff that was making people cancel their subscriptions and not Omega and stop playing the game. We have all that now. Plus, I think, frankly, having seen, a lot of discussion over the CSM over the last couple of years, the malaise in the community about this election is real. Like, it just doesn't seem like people are as excited to vote and that they are excited about candidates as they have been in the past, me included. So, I mean, for example, like my campaign commercial, I've done multiple campaign commercials over the last 4 years. The last one I did, I dropped it Friday, never even made it to the top of Reddit. And I think that's a rarity in that regard. So I think a lot of people are jaded. They're mad at the company. They're mad at the CSM in general. And I don't know what that's going to mean for turnout. So I don't think we're going to see 40,000 votes, which would be a tick up from last year. I think last year was 39. I'm guessing it's going to be closer to 31 or 32. And if that's the case, I mean, it's going to be it's all going to be who ends up turning out and who can get their folks to show up. And I think obviously the big blocks will have the advantage on that, as they always do. But I think it also creates a lot of opportunities for the smaller guys because they don't have to hit larger numbers. And if they can get a higher percentage of their people out, it'll make a difference.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I do hope we have at least 2 to 3, non-blocky candidates, and I include Pando in non-blocky because I think Pando can think very independently, shall we say, to block the mentality. So I do hope, and I think a lot of the independent candidates, for example, Phantomite, are trying very, very hard, and they are very passionate, and you as well, Pando, and you, Mark, as well. So I do hope, there are a couple, because I think that would be good for the CSM. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think the list that we have, if that's the CSM, I'd be really, I mean, obviously I'm on the list there, right? So I'd be very happy, of course. But yeah, that would be a nice CSM, honestly. Like, high with low sec, Ithaca with a little bit of tournament and all kinds of stuff, right? A little bit of a, extra wormhole, extra low sec stuff. Then Mark obviously with wormhole stuff, and and I think it's important, honestly, that we have an experienced like null sec FC on there. So I'd count me in there. And then Storm Delay, I'm not sure how experienced he is, but I've seen a shit ton of pings from Storm Delay, so I'm gonna guess he's seeing quite a bit. But I've never talked to him, so but I'd say he's probably like-minded, so we probably get along.
Old Ithaca, I mean, I'll tell you what he's dedicated to. We had the Wormholer Town Hall yesterday that Teddy and Ashy of Outfox were hosting, and Ithaca called in from a music festival in Spain to that show, which was kind of gangster. So
he did the meta show from his hotel room in Barcelona yesterday too. So I mean, the guy's out there. I like him a lot.
He's committed.
So the guys in chat are asking, what about Steve Renukin? Well, look, I love Steve. Steve's a good dude. He's a 6-term CSM member. But here's the thing. Okay, he's the main third-party developer guy. That's great. But he's been out of the spotlight for a number of years now. And his last campaign, which was for CSM 14, he limped in at the very end and he beat Sword Dragon by 12 votes to get on. So I don't, and honestly, if you look at the numbers of what CCP was showing at FanFest and stuff like that, where like 57% of the game started since 2018. I don't know how many people still remember Steve, and he doesn't do a lot of campaigning out there. So I think it's hard to predict where he's going to be. He's a great candidate. I hope he wins. I enjoyed serving with him on 13. But I don't know if he's going to be able to overcome all of the other folks that are out there that have been more front of mind for a lot of people over the years.
I'm just reading what makes Phantomite is a bad choice. Like this list is not about like being good choices. This is a predictions, as it says at the top, right? Predictions list. So that's what we guess who is gonna make it on, right? It's a best guess. The last couple slots that don't have the star, they're kind of up for grabs with all the guys below that too, right? You could interchange that. And then Phantomite is a bad choice if you're crap blobber, I guess. Yeah, well, it might be. But you know what? Do we need some crap blobbers out there? Right? We need all the players we can get at the moment. So, you know, one play style is not going to save it, dude. We need a good mix, right? We need a good mix of people all together in one room. So all the factors are considered and no play style is getting shit on. And we can, like, make CCP do the right thing. Like,
I mean, the number one thing we need are people who are going to show up, who are actually going to come to meetings and do the fucking work. I cannot tell you the number of CSM members I have served along who have done the bare minimum or less. We need people who will show up, because if they show up, they get to know the CCP guys. They're much more influential when they know who you are. When you show up and you're on camera and you talk to them, I mean, that's the thing. If they don't know who you are, or they don't get to meet you because you come to a meeting every 6 months, you're not going to be effective. And we need effective CSM members, because sometimes we're the only thing standing between CCP and a really stupid ass decision. And there are plenty of times where we can't stop them from being stupid. But I'll tell you, that's one of the main jobs of the CSM, is to try to stop these guys from doing dumb shit. We're not always successful at it, but we are more successful than we're given credit for. Because let me tell you, the company comes up with stupid ass shit every goddamn day. It's really surprising how much stupid shit they can generate.
When does your NDA expire, Brisc?
I'm screwed, because it's 5 years from every last time you get NDA material. So for me, I'm not going to be out until like 2028 at this point.
Oh, well, hopefully the game won't last that long, and you can do a big Reddit post.
Do a big Reddit shit post. Hopefully I don't care enough about the game by that point. But we'll see.
It's going to run again, and like you have to take 1 year off, right? And then after that, you're going to run.
I don't want to. This is a good break for me. 4 is enough. I mean, I you know, the whole term limit thing is stupid anyway, because I think it stops people from getting elected that folks like. But at the same time, there's only been like 6 players in the history of the CSM that have served more than 4 terms. No, that's it. So most people get sick of it. You don't want to do it that long. And I know, talking to Innominate and Merkelchen, they wouldn't have run next time anyway, even if they weren't term limited. You know, they're just fed up. And I think I'm kind of at that point, but I'm too stubborn to go away. I want to.
I mean, you had a year break in between, right? So.
Yeah, I had a year. I mean, I took 14 off after the bullshit where we got banned, because I didn't want to deal with their shit for a while. But I couldn't stop. But I think I made my peace with it now. You know, it's an interesting job, and it's fun if you like that kind of thing. But it is a very stressful gig. It's not all, you know, rainbows and unicorns and shit like some people seem to think.
Chris will have a walking stick in it. He'll have a walking stick and an oxygen breathing apparatus next time we see.
Pretty much, exactly. They're gonna have to wheel me around in a fucking wheelchair, or
wheel you off the plane.
It'll be cool.
Why do you think some of the CSM, and I'm sure you would never name names, but some of the CSM who have done, let's say, less than the work that you would expect from a CSM in the past, do you think it's just because they've already gotten on the CSM and they've gotten the cred for it, and now their name's in the book and they don't have to worry about anything else, and that's just the only reason they were there?
Can I take a guess? Can I take a guess?
Part of it.
It's part of it.
Go ahead, Pam.
But you know what? If I have to take a guess, it's probably they have that one thing in mind, right? They want to do this. Like, for example, for me, like, if I, like, obviously I don't think like that, but for me it would be Citadels. And then I would go in and say, like, we have to go with Citadels. And I'm not able to talk about anything else. Like, I'm just waiting, like, the full term for Citadels to come up and then finally take in. That's not how it works. Some people might get lucky, right? For example, Asia was very faction warfare focused, right? And she comes in, and then actually, like, that was talked about. And then, you know, but I think a lot of people are probably so focused on a certain thing, and then it never comes up. And that, you know, they're just sitting there wasting time.
That's definitely part of it. I think the other thing is, you know, sometimes people, like, they get in here and they realize that CCP is not like a functioning company. It's like a lemonade stand that sells millions of dollars worth of lemonade a year. And it doesn't make a lot of sense how, I mean, I get frustrated with their style. I get frustrated with their organizational chart, which changes every 6 months. I get frustrated with the fact that they are constantly on vacation. Half the company is on vacation at any given time because Iceland is very generous with their time off. Like, they get the whole fucking summer off. I mean, I can't imagine that, but that's basically it. There's like 1 month where there's nice weather in Iceland, so everybody's gone for July.
I mean, can't blame him too much, dude. In winter, they don't even see the sun, so I can't even blame him for it, to be honest.
So I mean, and I'm not giving him a hard time. I'm just saying it's like this is the thing.
You gotta get that vitamin D, dude.
You get in there and you realize, it's not what you thought it was going to be, and it gets hard to get sometimes to get attention on the stuff that you care about if that's not where the company's putting their resources. And I think people get very turned off and burned out very quickly. And it's much easier or much more fun to just be like, all right, I'm out. I'm going snowboarding or something. Yeah. So it's just that's the deal. And every CSM, there's 1 or 2 folks who like came in gung ho, but by the end have not been in a meeting in 3 or 4 months. It's just inevitable. And I like to keep those to a minimum because this is a tough job. And when you feel compelled to provide feedback on everything because nobody else is doing it, that it takes a lot out of you after a while.
The other day in the Wormholer Discord, Laura Seiko, who ran for CSM 15, asked a really good question of a couple of the candidates who were in there. And the question was, if you got onto CSM and they sit you down day 1 and they said, okay, listen, we know this is your area of expertise and this is kind of where your area of concern is. And we're not going to be addressing those concerns for 2 years. That's not on our list of things to do. We don't.
That's exactly what I mean.
Issue. So in the question then was, if you find yourself in that situation, what do you do?
Do you step down? Do you or do you have enough broad experience to be useful anyway?
I like to imagine, and Brisc could probably speak more about this too. I like to imagine that when I close my eyes and I dream about what the CSM must be like, I have to imagine that there are still conversations that are happening where it is valuable to have a variety of different inputs from a variety of different perspectives, even if the discussions are not pertaining to any one area that you might be of most concern about. That makes sense? In other words,
I mean, that's the thing. It happens. I mean, so the way I was explaining to the RHP guys on the last thing that I did while I was here with you guys, the bulk of what we do is we have a meeting a week, and it's about an hour and a half. It usually goes an hour, but sometimes it's an hour and a half. You get everybody in there. It's typically on a specific subject matter or with a specific team from CCP. But the community team we can talk to anytime we want. So if we want to grab them and talk to them on a whatever, it's fine. That's the bulk of the work. We're going to have a summit this year. I mean, come hell or high water, we need to have a summit because we haven't had one in 3 years. It's critical to get everybody together. And frankly, I think the reason why the last CSMs, at least the last 2, have been harder for me is not getting to go and physically meet the other CSM members means all we can do is go by their reputations and how we see them on a stream or in a meeting. And that I haven't had a chance to sit down and have a beer with any of these guys. And I think that would have smoothed over a lot of some of the bumps in the road that we had the last couple times. Because a lot of this, stuff is once you sit down and have a beer with somebody, even if it's somebody that you absolutely can't stand, like I guarantee you, the guys in the chat who hate me because I'm Mr. Nullblock, if we sat down and had a beer, you would come away with a different philosophy or different thinking about it. And I feel the same way if I had a chance to sit down with Billy and have a beer with him, or sit down with Gobbins and have a beer with him. I feel like we could have gotten a lot of the tension out of the way had it existed because of all of the in-game shit that happened over the last 2 years. And then I think, in addition, we do have conversations on Slack. Those are group chats. We can all chat together. Sometimes those are good. Sometimes those devolve into fighting and we have to get in trouble and get told to stop being mean or anything. But in the end, there are chances and places where you can provide that kind of feedback and it makes sense. And it's especially nice when the CCP guys will give us a design document to go and throw our efforts into. Like, here's what we're thinking about doing for X. Like they did it for Citadels. They did it for a couple of different things that came out last year. And we had a chance to go in there, make comments, give them feedback, suggest edits, stuff like that. That's some of the most useful stuff that we do. But it doesn't work with every group, and not every group wants that kind of feedback. I mean, most of the time, there are times when we'll go into meetings and they'll come in and they'll be like, all right, guys, here's what we want to show you. This is shipping next Tuesday. And my next question is, can we have any impact on the shipping if we don't like any of the stuff? No, it's already baked in. And I'm just like, well, fuck you. I'll see you later. What the hell's the point of having this meeting now if I can't make any changes, right? But the better times is when they come in and they say, here's what we're thinking about doing. What do you guys think? Here's a design document. Go throw your opinions in there. And then we actually have influence and we have the ability to give them good feedback ahead of time. And then I think that tends to be the stuff that gets better received.
And I have to guess that it depends on the developer team, like, very much. Who comes in early, who comes in late, right? And I think it's a trust thing. So people like, I don't know, CCP Rice has been in the company for ages, has been working with the CSM for ages, so he kind of trusts certain CSM people. So he's going to be one of the guys that comes in early, right? And then you have other people that haven't had like so much experience with the CSM or even in EVE or whatever, and they're going to be the ones that come in late probably, right? Saying like, hey, like, we're doing this, by the way, just so you know. And I can only imagine, no?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's why I love the fact we've got CCP Aurora doing development stuff now, because she worked with us enough. She trusts us. She's willing to give us like a front row seat on some of this stuff, which is great. Rise has always been good. I miss CCP Signal every day. I wish he was still there. It's a shame because I love that guy. We used to talk all the time. He was great.
No, he was a good one.
The community team is the best asset they've got right now, because every single person on the community team, other than CCP Dopamine, everybody else are all EVE players, and EVE players of some note. You've got Elise, you've got General Stargazer, you've got Bam Stoker, so CCP Swift and CCP Zealous and CCP Convict. Aurora was there. The folks that are on that team, they know the game. They've been around a while and they play it actively. So they tend to be some of our best resources because we can get to them very easily, and then they can get to everywhere else in the company. And I think the two of us, when CSM and the community team are aligned, which we usually are, that's kind of our secret weapon that gets us into the boardroom when we otherwise might not be there. And I think that's had a big impact. I think their help in standing up with us against like the Prospector Pact, for instance, I think is one of the main reasons why that got pulled and is only being sold in game to like new players. It's not available for everybody. And I think a lot of things like that, where when we can amplify what they're saying internally, it's very helpful to them and to us, and we can get stuff done. So and that's something that once you get to the CSM, when you get here, you're going to realize, like, it's weird figuring out where the power in the company is, who's got the ear of who, because it's not as straightforward as folks think it is.
All right.
Well, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
You guys will all find out because you're all getting elected, so don't worry.
Yeah, we'll see. But we're reaching the end. We are close to an hour and a half. Do we have any final notes? Like, do you want to get rid of some thoughts? Let people know. I mean, beside the whole, guys, go out and vote, right? First of all. It doesn't have to be, like, Pando first. I mean, it would be nice.
It needs to be Pando first. Vote for Pando first.
Yeah,
but
I would say
whoever
even
you
if
really
you're
like.
anti-block, even if you're anti-block, I think voting for Pando is still a very good thing. He is definitely not as block-centric as people might think. He is very much an independent thinker. There's a lot going in that big brain of his.
Thanks.
A lot of it's Pytha, though.
I didn't mean to make it about me, but yeah. Do you guys have like some? Go, Mark.
Let me ask you a question, Pando. Since we're talking, as FC chat, you're FC, things about FCing. If you had to guess, how many paladins do you think it would take to kill a revelation in 2 minutes?
How many paladins does it take to kill a ref in 2 minutes? It depends on what kind of ref it is. Is it a PvP snuff ref in low sec with fucking amulets and full links and everything, or is it a ref getting caught in a site doing like some PvP?
It is not a ref getting caught in a site. It is an active tank Geno ref with gigas.
I'm gonna say in 2 minutes.
Dual reps.
I'm gonna say 15 paladins can crack it.
You're really close. It's 16. You probably do 15 too.
There you go.
Yeah,
that got me at least one extra vote here, I'm sure.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, that guy knows his shit.
It's gonna come up soon too. People are gonna start talking about it. By the way, that Marauders are wild right now. Absolutely,
I've been talking about it
wild.
the entire time. Like, do we need a smaller, cheaper, more agile horde reds? Like, that's not what we needed, right? But you know,
it is. I don't know. I don't know what the answer to it is. I can tell you that the answer to it right now is not the Revelation. Revelation is not the answer to the Paladin.
That right away too. I mean, dreads can actually be pretty effective, but the thing is, they only have to bastion for 30 seconds, right? So the dread might apply for those 30 seconds, and after that, whatever.
And that was the problem too. I mean, so to put it in context, since you have no idea what I'm talking about, we fought Hawks the other day, Laser Hawks, Hawks is like S tier in Wormholes, right? They're like the tippy top of what's going on out there right now. There's not really anybody who can kind of compete with what their whole brand is. They do everything at the highest possible level. And the other day they rolled out a 16 Paladin armor comp sitting under triage. And I was trying to describe how horrifying it was to be on grid with them, because we brought a Lashak fleet. And we brought basically even numbers. We had even numbers of Lashaks. We had a Lift on grid.
DPS is just insane.
And we had my Revelation. They had available to them at any given moment 36,000 DPS that could perfectly apply. I was hitting, I think, my volleys against the Paladins, which themselves had like 800,000 hit points, with amulets. I think I was hitting them for maybe 15,000 volleys, which is so small, but their resists are nuts.
Yeah, sometimes
wild.
And sometimes
can I just say for the record, I love the fact that Marauders are back in the meta again.
I think that's
great. I love it.
So when I want to clear this up, because someone said, half jokingly, not voting for Paladin, don't touch my Paladin. You know, I'm not against Marauders in space. I'm not against Marauders being strong in certain scenarios, but I think the entire mix, the agility, like the mobility, I should say, the mobility, the DPS and the tank, you know, they need to, like, something needs to, be switched up.
Well,
and I think
they're all 3 billion ISK. That's why.
A minute of Bastion, for example, would already help. Just make it a minute.
Are you
so they're
Pando? They took me 2 years to get them to reduce the Bastion to 30 seconds. What are you doing to me?
Oh my god! It's all your fault. Oh god.
Oh, absolutely. I was 100% in favor of that stuff. I wanted Marauders before the meta change. Who used Marauders?
Like
high-sec mission runners were it. Yeah. Nobody else was using them. Graf Telkin and maybe like 5 high-sec mission runners were the ones using the fucking Marauders. Then they make the changes and now they're everywhere. I like it. It's
the minute Bastion is not going to change a whole lot there, but it makes them a little bit more vulnerable. But whatever. Hi, what's your point there?
Well, I was just going to say anything that's not the hack meta is pretty refreshing right now. So
thank God, yes.
But the thing is, I mean, if you're roaming with anything smaller, like I'm not against Marauders and fleets. Like that's not the issue I'm talking about, right? But anything smaller scale, I mean, you can't crack it too much tank, and you can't tank it too much DPS. And like, what's the point? You just leave the grid, and that's like what happens most of the time. But whatever.
Or you bring your own.
Sure, let me bring my own Marauder quickly. I'll just clap my hands and spawn 3 Marauders in horde space.
There you go. There you go. Bring your own.
Yeah.
You got to seed them, Pando. It takes a year, right?
You got to seed them? What do you mean?
Seed them. It'll take a year.
I'll seed them. Right, yeah. But yeah, guys.
It's been fun.
Yeah, it was a fun little discussion we had. I think it wasn't as dry as most of the CSM interviews
that is true.
Listened to.
That's because High was here.
That's also true.
High is the lubrication that keeps CSM interviews from going boring.
Right? That's okay. I'm revoking my CSM application now. I don't want to be anymore.
But yeah, guys, would be nice to be on the CSM with you together. I hope we all get on. And yeah,
good luck to you all.
Thanks for coming on, and everyone in chat, thanks for hanging out. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and yeah, that's it.
Catch you guys later.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, bye.
Good night, everybody.
And stream-wise, guys, I'm going to be around in like 2 weeks, right? My girlfriend's going to be here, but I'm taking a break of 2 weeks during the voting period. Don't forget to vote. If you have a strong opinion on a candidate, put him first. If you're not decided yet, just put me first. It's going to be fine. But yeah.
If Panda makes it in, he'll eat lots of vegetables. So vote for his health.
Right.
But yeah, have a good one, guys.
Peas.
Yeah. Have a good one and see you guys around. Bye-bye.